Imagine walking into a room, right, and you were just fully convinced that you are the ultimate savior.
Oh, the classic savior complex.
Exactly. You arrive to rescue these people who you genuinely believe are beneath you. You think they're lost in the dark, and you are perfectly ready to bestow your grand wisdom upon them.
Right, like you're doing them this massive favor just by showing up.
Yeah, exactly. But instead of them falling at your feet in tearful gratitude, the very people you came to save completely dismantle your ego.
Oh, I love when that happens.
Right. They just strip away all your illusions of superiority with like just a few simple razor-sharp questions.
Yeah.
And this is the wild part, after entirely breaking down your worldview and exposing your hypocrisy, they are the ones who step up to save your life.
It is honestly the ultimate reversal of fortune. We're looking at a scenario where the supposed enlightened teacher is forced to become the desperate student.
Yeah.
And the marginalized folks, the ones he looked down on, are revealed to be the actual moral giants in the room.
And today, we are going to explore exactly how that psychological dismantling happens.
Oh.
So, welcome to the Simplified Summary YouTube channel, where we take deep dives into transformative literature and pull out the insights that actually matter.
Insights you can really use.
Exactly. And you, the listener joining us today, you're the most crucial part of this exploration. So if you are ready to have your own worldview challenged, we humbly ask that you hit that subscribe button, drop a like on this video, and, share your valuable thoughts in the comments below.
It really does help the channel grow, which allows us to keep bringing you these deep dives. And today's exploration is particularly powerful, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it touches on these dynamics of power and charity that are just as relevant today as they were when this text was written.
For sure. So our mission today is a profound deep dive into a single brilliant short story by the legendary writer Munshi Premchand. The piece is titled Mantra 1.
Right, and it comes straight from the pages of his celebrated collection, Mansarovar Part 5.
Yes. We are going to unpack this narrative masterpiece to reveal the source material's timeless lesson. We're talking about performative hypocrisy, the nature of true morality, and what the author suggests it actually means to uplift a society.
Oh, it's a heavy hitter.
It really is. So let's jump right into the setup. Premchand opens on this vivid, almost cinematic scene. It's nighttime.
Setting the mood.
Yeah. And there's a camp set up by a Savak dal, which, for context, translates to a service group or a band of volunteers. And it's set up right on the edge of a settlement of untouchables.
Okay.
The whole area is illuminated by this harsh, artificial glare of gaslights. And immediately, the author paints this incredibly stark physical divide for us.
The visual contrast is just striking.
It's wild. On one side, you have thousands of untouchables sitting directly on the ground on these coarse, scratchy jute mats.
Right.
And right across from them, the high-caste Hindu reformers are lounging comfortably on plush, expensive carpets.
I mean, that visual contrast, the jute mats versus the plush carpets, it's doing an immense amount of heavy lifting right from the very first paragraph.
Oh, totally.
Premchand uses this spatial arrangement to establish the power dynamic before a single line of dialogue is even spoken. It instantly communicates who holds the authority and who is, expected to just sit there and receive it.
Receive the wisdom.
Right.
Exactly. And sitting on that authority is the leader of this service group, Pandit Liladhar.
The man of the hour.
Right. He stands up to deliver this fiery, deeply passionate sermon to the crowd. He looks out at the untouchables sitting in the dirt and tells them that they are, in fact, the descendants of great ancient sages.
Wow. Okay. Going big right out of the gate.
Yeah, he paints this picture of their ancestors as sages who literally created a new world, like individuals whose intellect the entire globe still bows down to. He's really hyping them up, trying to connect them to this glorious shared lineage.
Sounds pretty inspiring on the surface, honestly.
It does. But, reading through this, I couldn't help but picture Liladhar as a modern-day volunteerist.
Oh, that is such a perfect comparison.
Right. You know the type, the kind of internet influencer who parachutes into an impoverished area, wanting to play the hero, get photos of themselves helping, but they still demand VIP treatment and a luxury hotel at the end of the day.
Want to have a good room service.
Exactly. I mean, if he's up there preaching absolute equality and this magnificent shared lineage, isn't the simple fact that he's lecturing from a plush carpet while his quote-unquote equals are shivering on jute mats a glaring contradiction?
It is a massive contradiction. But the narrative suggests that Liladhar genuinely does not see it.
Which is crazy to me.
It is. But that is precisely the core of the savior complex that Premchand is critiquing here. His speech, while seemingly empowering on the surface, is depicted as a purely top-down, patronizing approach to social reform.
Because he's not actually engaging with them as people.
Exactly. For Liladhar, this is largely an intellectual exercise. He loves the abstract idea of uplifting the marginalized, but the text illustrates that his approach lacks any true, grounded empathy.
Yeah.
He isn't sitting in the dust with them to understand their lived reality. He is bestowing his benevolence from a safe, comfortable, and quite frankly, hygienic elevation.
Safe on his carpet.
Right. The source frames his mindset as viewing these people as a project to be fixed, rather than as equals to be genuinely understood.
He wants the glory of saving them, but he doesn't want to get his clothes dirty in the process. It feels like he's treating social work as a performance rather than an actual human connection.
That physical distance, that luxurious carpet separating him from the scratchy mat, is a direct manifestation of his psychological distance.
Man, that's a great way to put it.
Premchand is showing us a character who believes he possesses the moral high ground, quite literally, and he expects gratitude simply for showing up and pointing out their flaws.
Which brings us to the moment that completely derails Liladhar's carefully orchestrated performance. Out of this massive crowd of thousands, an old, untouchable man stands up.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. And he pierces right through all of Liladhar's soaring rhetoric with a simple, devastating question. He looks at the Pandit and asks, "If we are the children of these great sages, why do you believe in this high and low discrimination?"
It is a brilliant rhetorical move.
Just cuts right to the chase.
He takes Liladhar's own foundational premise, that they all share this glorious equal lineage, and demands that Liladhar apply that premise to the immediate real world.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Basically, yeah. He is essentially asking, if we were equal in the ancient past, why aren't we equal right now, tonight, in this very camp?
And the source material shows Liladhar scrambling for a defense. He claims that the untouchables have simply fallen into ignorance over time, implying they've lost their way.
Convenient excuse.
Very. But the old man decides to test that defense. He asks a very practical question. Okay, if we are truly equals who have just lost our way, will you eat a meal with us right now? Will you marry your daughter to my son?
The ultimate test of actual social equality.
Right. And this is where Liladhar's actual worldview is exposed. He gives a highly conditional response. He tells the old man that they must change their fundamental habits first.
Ah, the conditions appear.
Always conditions. He demands that they stop eating meat, stop drinking alcohol, and get a formal education. He dictates that only then, once those conditions are strictly met, can they mingle with high-caste Hindus.
This exchange is where Premchand really digs into the complex nature of acceptance and reform.
How so?
Well, the author is highlighting the profound difference between offering equality and demanding conformity.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for just a second, though.
Sure.
If we look at this from Liladhar's perspective, situated in the historical context of that era, couldn't you argue he is just asking for basic social reforms? Like, from his vantage point, he might genuinely think he's offering them a highly practical, step-by-step roadmap to integration.
Right, I see where you're going.
Isn't he basically just saying, here are the societal rules of the club, follow them, and society will accept you?
It is a compelling counterpoint, for sure. But if we delve into the sociological themes the source is exploring, Premchand is pointing out the underlying toxicity of Liladhar's specific conditions.
Okay, unpack that for me.
The narrative frames Liladhar's demands not as a pathway to true equality, but as a demand for complete assimilation. He is telling this community that their basic humanity and their right to be treated with equal dignity is entirely conditional.
Oh, wow.
It is contingent upon them mimicking his specific cultural norms. He isn't saying you are equal to me as you are. He is saying you can become acceptable to me, provided you erase your current identity and act exactly like my social class does.
That's a huge distinction.
It really is. The text presents this as a profoundly arrogant stance because it assumes Liladhar's specific way of living is the absolute, unquestionable moral baseline of the universe.
I see the distinction you're making now. It's the difference between providing someone access to resources versus demanding they undergo a cultural erasure to earn basic respect.
Exactly.
He's holding the goalpost, and he alone gets to decide when they've actually scored. But the old man, he does not let him get away with moving those goalposts.
Not at all.
This brings us to what I can only describe as a historic mic drop rebuttal from the old man. He completely unmasks the hypocrisy of the entire power structure Liladhar represents.
The old man's logic here is just bulletproof.
It really is. He points at a glaring double standard in the reformer's logic. He tells Liladhar, look, you know plenty of high-caste Brahmins who drink alcohol, who eat meat, and who don't have a shred of formal education.
Right.
Yet, you have absolutely no problem dining with them or marrying into their families.
The old man finds the fatal flaw in the argument and just exposes it brilliantly. Premchand is using this dialogue to demonstrate that if the issue were truly about the moral purity of avoiding alcohol or meat, Liladhar would logically reject his own high-caste peers who partake in those exact things.
But he doesn't.
He doesn't. The rules are selectively applied based on status, not actual morality.
And then the old man delivers the most brutal truth of the entire text. He tells Liladhar that while high-caste Hindus despise the untouchables for eating meat, those same high-caste individuals happily rub their noses on the ground in front of the beef-eating rulers of the land.
Oh, that is a powerful observation.
Right, and why do they do it? Not because those rulers are morally pure or abstaining from meat, but simply because those rulers hold political and economic power.
That observation is really the crux of Premchand's entire critique in this story. The old man masterfully exposes that Liladhar's supposed morality is a convenient sham.
A total sham.
According to the narrative, it isn't about spiritual purity at all. It's entirely about power dynamics. Liladhar's religion, as the old man accurately diagnoses it in the text, is reduced to nothing more than bowing to the strong and oppressing the weak.
Wow.
The rules of purity that Liladhar preaches are only ever enforced downward upon the marginalized. They are never enforced upward upon the powerful.
Based on that devastating logic, the old man utterly rejects Liladhar's grand offer of upliftment. He essentially tells the pandit to just keep his conditional charity to himself.
He doesn't want it.
Nope. He says his people will instead seek refuge in a deity or a religion that welcomes them exactly as they are without demanding they change their very nature before they are granted basic human respect.
The author is showing us that the old man isn't merely defending his dietary habits here. He is systematically dismantling the moral authority that Liladhar assumes he inherently possesses.
Yeah, he takes his authority right out from under him.
By pointing out the blatant hypocrisy of bowing to powerful meat-eaters while shunning powerless ones, the old man highlights that Liladhar's moral compass is dictated by social convenience, not universal truth. He entirely strips the reformer of his illusion of righteousness.
You know, philosophical debate on a plush carpet doesn't actually test a person's core convictions, right?
So words are cheap.
Exactly. The source material knows that words are cheap. So Premchand introduces a sudden life-or-death crisis to force these opposing ideologies into a real-world collision. There's a dramatic shift in the narrative.
This is where things get very real.
Pandit Liladhar falls gravely ill or is severely injured. The text notes he requires heavy bandaging and is hovering right at death's door.
The narrative introduces a physical vulnerability to test the depth of the abstract theories both men were just arguing about.
And the irony of how this plays out is staggering. Who steps up to save the dying pandit? It's not his high-caste peers from the Sadakdal.
Of course not.
It's the very same old, untouchable man who intellectually dismantled him the night before. The old man sits by Liladhar's side day and night. And the sources give us these incredibly gritty, visceral details about what this care entails.
It's not glamorous work.
No, not at all. The old man isn't just sitting in a chair reading a book next to the bed. He is physically cleaning Liladhar's bodily waste with his own hands.
Wow.
He bears Liladhar's feverish scoldings and terrible sick temper without a single frown or complaint. He goes out and begs the entire village for milk just to keep Liladhar nourished and alive.
Premchand makes a point to contrast this behavior directly with Liladhar's own people.
The ones on the carpets.
Exactly. The text explicitly points out that his own peers, the people he shares plush carpets and social status with, offer no such visceral, hands-on help when things get difficult and unhygienic.
It's the ultimate Good Samaritan scenario, played out in extreme detail. If you think about the mechanics of it, Liladhar's idea of charity was standing on a clean carpet and delivering a speech.
Right.
It cost him nothing but breath and maybe a bit of his time. But the old man's charity, he is getting his hands literally dirty. He is absorbing verbal abuse from a sick man. He is tirelessly serving someone who came uninvited to his home and publicly insulted his entire way of life.
It's a profound level of forgiveness.
It makes you wonder, why would the old man do this for someone who was just patronizing him?
What the source material suggests is crucial here is the underlying motivation. For the old man, serving an uninvited guest, even a highly hostile one, is depicted as a core part of his actual lived religion.
Oh, interesting.
Premchand frames this as an instinctual morality born of deep empathy and shared humanity. This is placed in stark contrast to Liladhar's performative religion, which the story has shown was all about dictating rules, maintaining social boundaries, and demanding prerequisites for care.
Right, the conditions again.
The old man doesn't pause to ask Liladhar to change his beliefs or apologize before he saves his life. The service provided is entirely unconditional.
Unconditional. That is the operative word here. And it takes a full month of this grueling, agonizing recovery. But Liladhar finally wakes up to the reality of his situation.
He survives.
He survives. And he has a massive epiphany. He realizes the monumental, unpayable debt he owes to these people. And he has this brutally honest moment of self-reflection.
A rare moment of clarity for him.
Yeah, he admits to himself that if the roles had been reversed, like if the old man had fallen ill at the Savak Dal camp, Liladhar never would have cleaned his waste.
Never.
He admits he proudly would have sent the sick man off to a distant hospital, patted himself on the back, and considered his duty perfectly fulfilled, genuinely believing he had brightened the names of his ancient sages by doing the absolute bare minimum.
That moment of self-awareness is the thematic turning point of Premchand's narrative. Liladhar recognizes that his previous concept of duty was entirely hollow. It was bureaucratic charity.
Bureaucratic charity. I like that phrase.
Because sending someone away to a hospital removes you from their suffering. You don't have to smell it, you don't have to touch it, and you don't have to emotionally engage with it. The narrative highlights that the old man's charity, by contrast, was deeply intimate, profoundly human, and devoid of any ego.
I like to think of it like a telescope versus a microscope.
Okay, how so?
It's like Liladhar spent his whole life looking at society through a telescope from a high, comfortable tower. He saw the people below as tiny, distant objects that needed rearranging.
Right, they were a concept, not people.
Exactly. But this severe illness forced him to look through a microscope. He was brought down to the dirt, and he finally saw their immense complexity, their fierce dignity, and their profound humanity right up close.
The reality of who they are?
So what does this realization mean for him? His perspective entirely flips. He looks at the people he previously thought were low, the people he thought desperately needed his civilizing help, and realizes they are morally and spiritually vastly superior to him.
A total paradigm shift.
The text actually notes that blessings for them literally pour out of his very pores.
Because he finally sees them for who they are. Not as a social project and not as a lower rung on a hierarchical ladder, but as moral titans who quietly practice the very compassion that he only loudly preaches about.
And this brings us to the resolution of the story, and the specific cultural groups Premchand mentions to really drive the point home. The source specifies that Liladhar is so fundamentally changed that he permanently relocates his entire family to live among the Chandalas and the Pils in that province.
That is a massive commitment.
It is. And for those who might not be familiar with the terms used in the text, Chandalas refers to a historically marginalized group often associated with untouchability and tasked with disposing of corpses, while Pils refers to an indigenous tribal group.
Right.
So Liladhar leaves his comfortable, high-status life behind to live directly alongside the very people he once lectured from a carpet. This profound realization, the shattering of his own superiority complex, is the true mantra that he learned from them.
The way Premchand subverts the title mantra here is incredibly powerful. In many traditions, a mantra is a sacred utterance, a magic word, or a specific sound used to invoke a deity or achieve an elevated spiritual state.
Like a chant.
Exactly. Liladhar probably arrived at that camp thinking he was bringing a grand mantra of civilization and reform to the masses. But the narrative reveals that the actual mantra he receives isn't a spoken word at all.
It's an experience.
Yes, it is the complete and utter destruction of his own ego. The story's ultimate argument is that true reform never happens when you are looking down on someone. You cannot pull someone up if you are busy standing on their shoulders just to make yourself feel tall.
You cannot pull someone up if you are busy standing on their shoulders. That analogy perfectly captures the emotional and philosophical journey of this text. Premchand takes the reader from blinding, carpet-sitting arrogance to ultimate, life-altering humility.
It's a beautifully structured journey.
It really is. The story completely flipped the script on who was actually the savior and who was the one desperately in need of saving.
It is a narrative that forces the reader to confront their own internal definitions of purity, charity, and morality. The source material asks us to consider a very uncomfortable question. Are our good deeds done to genuinely help others, or are they performed simply to validate our own self-image and make us feel benevolent?
That is a tough question to sit with. It is a deep dive that definitely leaves a mark and challenges the very foundation of how we view helping others. And to you, our listener, we want to leave you with a final, lingering thought to ponder as you step away from this exploration and go about your day.
Something to really mull over.
Look closely at your own life. Think about the people or groups you might secretly feel superior to, whether that feeling stems from your level of education, your wealth, your social status, or your background. What profound, life-changing mantra are you entirely missing out on, simply because you are too busy looking down at them from the comfort of your own metaphorical plush carpet?
It is a question that requires an immense amount of courage and self-honesty to answer.
It truly does. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this extensive deep dive into Munshi Premchand's brilliant work. We are incredibly humbled to have you as part of our audience and to share these stories with you.
It's been a great discussion.
Absolutely. Before you go, please remember to subscribe to the Simplified Summary YouTube channel, drop a like on this video to help it reach more people, and share your thoughts in the comments section below. We want to know what your metaphorical carpet is. We'll see you next time.